The last empire that tried to deceive humans, we crushed them with justice. The aliens always dismissed humans as fragile upstarts, their fragile flesh no match for the galaxy's hardened empires, until the day Sol's envoys turned silence into a weapon, scripting justice that locked entire fleets in stasis and humbled the proud Velar without firing a shot. The Grand Assembly of Helio hung like a colossal sphere in the void, its surface a lattice of iridescent alloys, reflecting the distant stars of the Helio cluster. Inside, 500 seats curved in concentric rings, representing 200 interstellar species, from the scaled Velar to the ethereal gas forms of the nebulae collective. The air hummed with tension, holographic displays casting a cold blue glow over the chamber as delegates settled in for the emergency session. Whispers rippled through the crowd, rumors of border violations, fabricated or not, that could ignite another interstellar skirmish. Counselor Malric strode to the central podium, his two-meter frame towering with the arrogance of a Velar warlord. His pale green skin shimmered under metallic scales, and his black robe bore the jagged emblem of Velar Prime, a symbol of unyielding dominance. But beneath that haughty gaze lurked desperation. His hawkish faction was losing ground in the endless political grind, and this accusation against the Sol Alliance was their gambit to reclaim power. With a flick of his clawed hand, Malric activated the array. 16 sensor prisms materialized in midair, beaming live data feeds into the chamber. Holographic projections bloomed like spectral ghosts, 5 Sol warships slicing through the neutral oral belt, their hulls sleek and predatory. Sensor logs scrolled alongside, capturing 12 encrypted attack orders pulsing at 4.7 THz frequencies, clear violations of the ancient Asterian Pact. "Behold the treachery of the Sol vermin," Malric declared, his voice booming through translators. "They encroach on neutral space, issuing kill commands against our patrols. This is not diplomacy, this is war cloaked in cowardice." Envoy Adrian Trask observed from his seat in the human delegation row, his lean, middle-aged frame unassuming in a plain diplomatic vest without medals or flair. His salt and pepper hair framed a sharp, pragmatic face honed by years negotiating with alien egos. As the data streamed, Trask's eyes narrowed at anomalies in the code, subtle distortions that screamed tampering. He adjusted his personal scanner discreetly, confirming his suspicion. A memetic payload lurked within, designed to warp perceptions and sway minds. Trask rose calmly, no theatrics, just a steady motion that drew eyes. He didn't shout. Instead, he tapped his wrist interface, initiating a signal quarantine protocol. A faint energy hum isolated the feeds from the chamber's network, preventing the virus from spreading to the 300 delegates present. "This data is compromised," he stated flatly, his voice carrying the weight of Sol's unyielding logic. "It carries a memetic contaminant. We must deploy independent filters before it poisons this assembly." Chancellor Leora, presiding from her elevated throne, shifted in her seat. Her semi-aquatic form was slender, skin glistening like dew under the lights, a mark of her amphibious heritage. As the neutral arbiter, she balanced caution with political pressure. But the Velar block's influence weighed heavily. She noted Trask's objection in the logs but waved it aside. "Duly recorded, Envoy. However, under Emergency Protocol 7, we proceed to vote without further review to maintain order." Her decision was pragmatic, avoiding delays that could fracture alliances. Malric's thin smile stretched, revealing pointed teeth, a mask for his inner triumph. "Objection noted," he sneered, "but silence is already proof enough." He aimed to rush the process, bearing the payload's secret before scrutiny could unravel it. The chamber buzzed with murmurs, delegates from various species exchanging uneasy glances, some intrigued by the drama, others wary of the ancient Asterian Gate's faint glow in the background holograms, relics that could awaken if justice faltered. The atmosphere thickened, whispers turning to debates as holographic vote tallies flickered to life. Trask remained steadfast, his low voice cutting through. "This evidence carries contamination. Independent filters must review it before it reaches this chamber." It was Sol's strategy in action. Transparency over force, a human hallmark that often caught aliens off guard. No bluster, just calculated precision. As the session pivoted to the vote, preliminary polls lit up the displays, 70% leaning toward Velar, swayed by the raw footage and political maneuvering. Malric leaned back, satisfied, but Trask's mind raced ahead. He knew the real evidence waited in Sol's blockchain vaults, ready to expose the fraud. The stage was set for conflict, not with lasers or fleets, but with code and cunning, a human specialty that turned perceived weakness into unassailable strength. Malric pressed his advantage, projecting more details. The 3D recreation zoomed in on the Sol ship's maneuvers, their trajectories arcing dangerously close to Velar outposts. The attack orders decoded partially on screen, phrases like neutralize threats flashing red. Gasps echoed from neutral factions, the display engineered to stir outrage. Trask scanned deeper via his lens, pinpointing the memetic layer, capable of subtly influencing 80% of biological species, a relic of old Velar PsyOps tech. He logged it silently, preparing countermeasures. Leora attempted balance, her webbed hands gesturing for calm, but the 150 Velar allies drowned out dissent. "We cannot delay justice," she ruled, invoking Protocol 7 fully. Malric nodded, exploiting Sol's restraint. "See? Their silence expresses guilt." Internally, he feared exposure. If checked, his faction's grip would slip. Trask activated the quarantine fully, shielding 200 digital links from infection, a preemptive strike born of Sol's preparedness. Delegates muttered, Leora's kin especially sensitive to memetics, highlighting the chamber's cultural mosaic. Malric's smile held, but his eyes betrayed dread, echoing Velar Prime's history of civil wars sparked by forged proofs. Leora announced the vote's commencement, screens showing a 60-40 split favoring Velar, tension peaking. Trask noted data for later reveal, his no-frills demeanor underscoring human efficiency. The part wrapped with orders, dispatching a 25-member Velar strike team to Elys Gate, paving the way for on-site drama. Yet Trask's calm belied the storm. Humans didn't rage. They engineered outcomes. As the team launched, he transmitted a subtle alert to his counterparts at the gate. Rencade, Mara Voss, Idris Hale, avatars of Sol's principles, poised to flip the script. The assembly didn't know it yet, but justice was about to right itself, human style, not with fury, but with unbreakable code. In the shadows of the chamber, ancient Asterian artifacts pulsed faintly, sensing the imbalance. Malric dismissed it as ambience, but Trask recognized the sign. The vote concluded swiftly, 72% approving detention of the 3 Zol officers. Malric gloated inwardly, masking worry over the gate's potential activation. 3 historical interventions loomed in records. Trask's final protest rang out. Independent verification is essential. Leora overruled, her prudence bent by politics. The strike team, 25 strong, hurtled through Oral's orbit, stasis weapons primed for non-lethal capture. At Elys Gate, a cylindrical neutral station 5 kilometers long, housing 100 functional bays, the trio awaited. Covenant protocol loaded. Admiral Rencade, with his dark hair and icy gaze, embodied law's avatar, Lex. "We will not fight here," he intoned calmly. "Let the Assembly's own laws hold this place." The team approached, Commander barking orders, only to slam into energy barriers, disabling half their arms instantly. Leora monitored from afar, doubt creeping as feeds lagged. Malric urged via comms, "Proceed without delay." His hawks prepped contingencies. Control shifted to a multi-species audit panel, 9 AIs, 50 independents, teeing up the twist. The quarantine held. Trask's move had bought time. Humans excelled in such games, turning alien aggression against itself. The session's end marked the beginning of Velar's unraveling, all without a single human casualty. Justice, as Sol defined it, was patient, precise, and inevitable. The Grand Assembly's chamber buzzed with static as Counselor Malric ramped up his assault. He manipulated the holographic array, zooming in on the 5 Sol warships carving through the Oral Belt's neutral zone. The 3D projection spun, showing sleek human vessels, angular, predatory, slicing through asteroid fields with precision. Sensor logs scrolled alongside, highlighting 12 encrypted attack orders pulsing at 4.7 TR-NERTs, each labeled with Sol's digital signature. Malric's voice cut through the murmurs, sharp as a blade. This is no mere trespass. Sol plots aggression, cloaked in their so-called diplomacy. His words, amplified through translators, stirred outrage among the neutral factions, their bioluminescent skin flickering in agitation. Adrian Trask leaned forward in his seat, his lean frame steady, eyes locked on the data feed through his personal lens. The anomalies he'd spotted earlier solidified into a pattern, a memetic payload woven into the code, capable of warping the perceptions of 80% of biological species in the chamber. It was old Velar tech, outlawed centuries ago after sparking civil wars on their homeworld. Trask's fingers danced over his wrist interface, logging the payload's signature for later exposure. He didn't flinch. Humans didn't need theatrics when logic sufficed. Malric pressed his advantage, projecting a close-up of a Sol ship firing a simulated barrage. Pure fabrication, but compelling. "See their intent," he roared, claws slashing the air. His thin smile masked dread. If Sol unraveled his evidence, the hawkish faction's influence would crumble. He leaned on the assembly's haste, knowing thorough checks could expose the forgery. Chancellor Leora, her semi-aquatic form shimmering under the chamber's lights, tried to maintain order. Her webbed hands gestured for calm, but the 150 Velar-aligned delegates drowned out dissent with chants of, "Justice now!" Leora's voice, amplified through the chamber's acoustics, cut in. "We must act decisively to preserve peace." Yet her decision to bypass Trask's warning showed her caution buckling under political pressure. The Velar bloc's pressure was relentless, exploiting her role as neutral arbiter. Trask activated the full quarantine protocol, a faint hum signaling the isolation of 200 digital connections to the assembly's network. The move was surgical, blocking the memetic virus from spreading while preserving the data for analysis. "This evidence is tainted," he repeated, voice level but firm, addressing the 300 delegates directly. "Sol demands verification, not blind action." His restraint was a human hallmark, calm in the face of alien bluster, a tactic that unnerved species expecting emotional outbursts. The chamber's diversity came alive in the murmurs. Leora's amphibious kin, sensitive to memetic manipulation, shifted uneasily, their skin pulsing with faint light. Insectoid delegates clicked mandibles, while gaseous nebulae representatives swirled in agitation. Malric's smile held, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. Recalling Velar Prime's history, 3 civil wars sparked by falsified evidence, each costing millions of lives. He pushed harder. "Sol's silence is their confession," he sneered, voice dripping with venom. Leora, caught in the political current, declared the vote imminent under Emergency Protocol 7. The holographic tallies flickered, showing a 60-40 split favoring Velar's motion to detain Sol's officers. The chamber's air grew thick, the faint glow of Asterian gates in the background holograms pulsing subtly, a warning Malric ignored but Trask noted. The gates, ancient relics of interstellar law, stirred when truth was at stake. Trask logged the final data points, his wrist device humming as it synced with Sol's blockchain vaults. He was ready to unveil the real evidence, but timing was everything. Humans didn't rush, they calculated. His calm exterior hid a mind racing through contingencies, preparing for the strike team's move to Elys Gate. "Verification will prove us right," he muttered to his aide, voice low, eyes on Malric. The Velar counselor, sensing victory, signaled his team via comms. "Deploy the strike force. 25 operatives, stasis gear only. No delays." His claws tapped the podium, betraying urgency. The team, elite Velar commandos, trained for zero-gravity ops, launched from a nearby dreadnought, their shuttle cutting through the Oral Belt toward Elys Gate. Malric's plan hinged on swift action before Sol's countermeasures could take root. In the chamber, delegates debated in clusters. A reptilian envoy hissed, "Sol's ships are too precise for peacekeepers." A crystalline delegate vibrated. Their silence reeks of guilt. Yet Trask's quarantine had planted doubt. Some delegates, like the gas forms, began questioning the data's integrity. Leora's hesitation grew, her webbed fingers twitching as delayed feedback from Elys Gate trickled in. Malric doubled down, projecting a looped feed of the Soul ship's maneuvers, each frame designed to inflame. "They mock our treaties," he bellowed, claws pointing to the screens. But Trask's lens caught a glitch, a pixelated flicker in the timestamp, proof of tampering. He saved it, knowing it would unravel Malric's lies when the time came. The vote's preliminary results solidified, 60% backing detention. Leora's voice echoed, "The Assembly moves to act." Trask didn't blink. His team at Elys Gate, Cade, Maravos, and Idris Hale was ready. They weren't just officers. They were Soul's ace, avatars of principles that Velar underestimated. The strike team's shuttle closed in, unaware of the trap. At Elys Gate, a 5-kilometer cylindrical station orbiting the Oral Belt, the trio stood in a sterile command bay. Cade, dark hair framing a cold gaze, adjusted his tactical interface. "They're coming," he said, voice like steel. Maravos, slender, with sharp eyes, nodded. "Let the Covenant handle it." Idris Hale, silver-haired and upright, checked the protocol status. "Justice waits," he intoned. The Velar shuttle docked, 20 commandos spilling out, stasis rifles primed. Their commander barked, "Surrender, Sol officers!" But the station's systems hummed, Covenant protocol engaging. Energy barriers snapped up, locking the team in place. "What is this?" the commander roared, his rifle useless. Back in the assembly, Trask watched the vote finalize, 72% approving detention. Malric smirked, but Trask's mind was elsewhere. Elys Gate, where the Covenant would shift control to a multi-species audit panel. 9 AIs, 50 independents, all poised to dissect Velar's lies. The chamber's lights dimmed, Asterian gates pulsing brighter, a silent promise of intervention. Malric's voice crackled through comms to his team. "Take them now." But the barriers held and Trask prepared his next move. Humans didn't fight with brute force. They wielded truth like a scalpel, cutting through deception with precision no alien could match. The stage was set, and Velar's gambit was about to collapse under the weight of its own fraud. The Grand Assembly's chamber vibrated with tension as holographic vote tallies solidified. 72% of the 500 delegates approved detaining 3 Sol officers, Cade, Maravos, and Idris Hale, based on Malric's fabricated evidence. The Velar counselor stood at the podium, his scaled frame rigid, black robe catching the cold blue light. His smug satisfaction masked a gnawing fear. The Asterian gates, relics of ancient law, had intervened 3 times in history when fraud tainted justice. Malric's claws tapped the console, urging haste to outrun scrutiny. Adrian Trask sat composed, his salt and pepper hair unmoving as he logged the vote's outcome on his wrist device. "Independent verification is essential," he stated one final time, voice cutting through the chamber's din. His objection, sharp and unyielding, met Chancellor Leora's dismissive wave. Her semi-aquatic skin shimmered with unease, but the pressure from 150 Velar-aligned delegates forced her hand. "The Assembly has spoken," she declared, voice echoing through translators. Her caution, once a strength, now bends under political weight, exposing cracks in her neutrality. Malric's eyes gleamed, sensing victory. "The Soul traitors will answer," he said, voice dripping with venom, aimed at rallying the neutral factions. But Trask's calm was a weapon. Humans didn't flinch under pressure. They calculated. His lens recorded the vote's data, syncing with Soul's blockchain vaults, ready to expose the memetic forgery when the moment struck. At Leora's command, a Velar strike team launched. 25 commandos, clad in matte black exosuits, boarded a sleek shuttle slicing through the Oral Belt's orbit toward Elys Gate. Their stasis rifles, designed for non-lethal capture, hummed with low-energy fields capable of freezing targets without bloodshed. The team's commander, a grizzled Velar with scarred scales, barked orders. "Secure the officers, no mistakes." His squad, trained for zero-gravity ops, moved with lethal precision, unaware of the trap awaiting. Elys Gate loomed ahead, a 5-kilometer cylindrical station orbiting the neutral zone, its hull a patchwork of ancient alloys and modern tech. 100 functional bays lined its interior, from command hubs to diplomatic quarters, all under the Covenant Protocol's watchful code. Inside the central bay, Ren Cade stood, his dark hair framing an icy gaze. Avatar of Lex, soul's embodiment of law. "They're here," he said, voice steady as steel, fingers poised over a tactical console. Mara Voss, slender with piercing eyes, embodied Fron, wisdom. She scanned the station's systems, her movements deliberate. "Covenant's ready," she replied, her voice calm but laced with intent. Idris Hale, silver-haired and upright, avatar of Dyke Equity, checked the protocol's status. "Justice waits," he intoned, his words a verdict. The trio, not human but AI constructs, stood ready to turn Velar's aggression against itself. The Velar shuttle docked with a metallic clang, commandos spilling into the bay. Their commander roared, "Surrender! Sol officers!" Stasis rifles leveled, but the station's systems flared to life. Covenant protocol activated, energy barriers snapping up like translucent walls, covering 80% of the bay. 12 commandos froze mid-step, their rifles sparking uselessly. "What is this?" the commander shouted, slamming his fist against the barrier. Ren Cade stepped forward, his presence commanding despite his calm. "We will not fight here," he said, voice resonating like a machine's hum. "Let the Assembly's own laws hold this place." The barriers pulsed, locking the team in stasis fields. The commander's comms crackled with frustration. "Why won't the arrays respond?" His assistant, voice strained, replied, "They do respond, sir, just not to us." Back in the assembly, Leora monitored the feeds, her webbed hands twitching as data lagged. Doubt crept into her posture. The strike team's failure wasn't part of the plan. Malric, sensing the shift, leaned into his comms. "Proceed without delay," he hissed, his hawkish faction prepping contingencies. But the Covenant had transferred Elys Gate's control to a multi-species audit panel, 9 AIs and 50 independent delegates, designed to dissect Velar's lies. Trask watched the chaos unfold, his wrist device humming as it relayed updates from the gate. He didn't smile. Humans didn't gloat. Instead, he prepared the blockchain reveal, 15 terabytes of untainted data ready to expose Malric's fraud. The chamber's murmurs grew louder, neutral factions, like the crystalline delegates, vibrating with unease. "Soul's restraint is unnatural," one hissed. But Trask's silence was a calculated blade, not weakness. Malric pushed harder, projecting the warship's footage again, looping the falsified attack orders. "Their guilt is undeniable," he bellowed, claws slashing the air. But the Asterian gate's glow intensified in the background, a subtle warning of their awakening. Trask noted it, his lens catching another glitch, a timestamp mismatch, proof of tampering. He saved it, ready for the counterstrike. Leora's voice wavered as she addressed the chamber. "The operation continues," she said, but her confidence frayed. The strike team's failure signaled something deeper, a human gambit unfolding. At Elys Gate, the barriers held firm, Covenant protocol locking the station's systems. Mara Voss addressed the trapped commandos, her voice slow and deliberate. "Wisdom demands verification, not haste." Her words, laced with logic, made the commander pause, his scales bristling. Idris Hale stepped beside her, his silver hair catching the bay's light. "Equity voids coercion," he said, each word a hammer strike. The commandos faltered, their mission crumbling under the weight of Soul's principles. The station's ancient tech, tied to the Asterian Pact, hummed louder, syncing with the gate's orbiting Velar Prime. In the assembly, the vote's aftermath lingered, 72% still backing Velar. But cracks formed. Neutral delegates whispered, questioning the data's integrity. Trask's quarantine had bought time, and his team at Elys Gate was rewriting the narrative. Malric's claws dug into the podium, his smile gone. He sensed the tide turning, his faction's grip slipping. The chamber screens flickered, showing the stalled operation at Elys Gate. Leora's eyes narrowed, doubt now overtaking her caution. Trask leaned back, his device syncing with Soul's vaults. The blockchain was ready. 9 AIs and 1,200 Velar citizens would soon verify the truth, unraveling Malric's lies. Humans didn't need to fight. They engineered outcomes, turning alien aggression into self-inflicted wounds. As the strike team's commander pounded the barrier, Ren Cade's voice echoed, "The law is not yours to bend." The Covenant's activation was complete, and control was fully ceded to the audit panel. The Asterian gates pulsed brighter, their ancient code stirring. Malaric's plan was unraveling, and Sol's gambit was just beginning. Truth, not force, would win this day. The Velar strike team's shuttle clamped onto Elys Gate's docking port with a resounding thud, the 25 commandos deploying in tight formation. Their exosuits hissed as they advanced through the sterile corridors, stasis rifles humming at low power, set for capture without permanent harm. The station's cylindrical hull, 5 kilometers of reinforced alloy, loomed silent under the Oral Belt's asteroid shadows. But as the team breached the central bay, Covenant protocol ignited. Translucent energy fields snapped up, covering 80% of the area, locking 12 commandos in mid-stride like insects in amber. Ren Cade stepped into view, his dark hair and cold eyes unchanging under the bay's harsh lights. As the avatar of Lex, Sol's code for law, his voice carried mechanical authority. "Stand down," he commanded, activating the protocol with a gesture. The station's systems whirred, transferring control to the multi-species audit panel. 9 AIs and 50 independents, all synced to dissect Velar's deception. "Laws protect themselves," he added, his words a barrier stronger than any shield. The commander, scales bristling under his helmet, pounded the energy wall. "Surrender or we breach." But the fields held, engineered from ancient Asterian tech, impervious to brute force. Mara Voss emerged beside Cade, her slender form and sharp gaze embodying throne, wisdom. She addressed the trapped team slowly, her voice probing like a scan. "Wisdom demands verification, not haste." Her logic cut through their training, making rifles waver. Doubt seated in their ranks, a human tactic of turning minds before metal. Idris Hale flanked them, silver hair catching the glow, avatar of Dyke equity. "Equity voids coercion," he stated, short and final as a verdict. The commander hesitated, his squad's cohesion cracking. 12 rifles sparked against the barriers, energy feedback disabling them instantly. The station's corridors, lined with gleaming metal and holographic interfaces, rumbled faintly, cues of the Asterian gates preparing to awaken, their blue lights spilling into the keys. Back in the Grand Assembly, Chancellor Leora leaned forward, her webbed hands gripping the throne as feeds from Elys Gate lagged. "Status report," she demanded, voice tight. The chamber's 500 delegates shifted, murmurs rising. Councillor Mauric's thin smile faded, his pale green skin paling further as comms relayed the failure. "Push through," he snarled into his link, but the payload's secret, 7 layers of memetic code, gnawed at him. His hawkish faction had planted it to sway minds, but Sol's quarantine had blunted its edge. Adrian Trask monitored from his seat, wrist device humming with real-time data. He initiated the blockchain broadcast, 9 multi-species AIs, and 1,200 Velar citizens, verifying in real time. The data streamed, untampered logs showing no Sol aggression, only Velar's forged signals. "The truth emerges," Trask said quietly to his aide, his pragmatic eyes on the screens. "Humans didn't boast, they executed." At Elys Gate, the commandos pressed forward, but stasis fields claimed more. 12 locked rigid, their exosuits powering down. The commander roared into comms. "Why won't the arrays respond?" His assistant, voice cracking, replied, "They do respond, sir, just not to us." The station's ancient core, tied to the Asterian Pact, had judged the incursion invalid, rerouting authority to the audit panel. Ren Cade watched him passively. "Your move was anticipated," he said, his mechanical tone underscoring Sol's foresight. Mara Voss circled the barrier, her sharp eyes meeting the commander's. "Haste blinds you to the forgery," she explained, her words slow, planting seeds of reflection. The team faltered. One commando lowered his rifle, scales dulling in defeat. Idris Hale added, "Coercion fails against code." The bay's holograms flickered, displaying the blockchain verification. Memetic tampering exposed. 7 layers peeled back like onion skin. Leora in the assembly ordered a halt. "Cease operations." But it was too late. The Asterian gates ignited, blue energy cascading across orbits, locking Velar military systems. 95% of their arrays returned. Authority null, fleets frozen in stasis. Malric's claws dug into the podium, his arrogance shattering. "Impossible," he muttered, but Trask's broadcast hit the chamber. 15 terabytes of proof, verified by the audit. The gate's activation marked the ancient mechanism's intervention, relics from millennia past, awakening only when justice twisted. Orbits around Velar Prime lit up, 30 ships immobilized, their commanders barking feudal orders. "Send overrides," one shouted, but 20 attempts failed, systems loyal to the Pact, not Velar. Ren Cade addressed the trapped team. "The law is not ours to bend." His presence, AI construct though it was, radiated unyielding principle, a human innovation aliens underestimated. Mara Voss added, "Truth shields what force cannot." The commandos, morale crumbling, retreated to their shuttle. Mission aborted. In the assembly, delegates erupted. Neutral factions like the Nebulae swirled in outrage, demanding audits. Leora's voice cut through. "We must verify." But the gate's glow intensified, a silent enforcer. Malric tried to rally. "Soul tricks!" Yet his eyes betrayed panic. The memetic payload, his weapon, now turned evidence against him. Trask stood, voice steady. "The blockchain speaks." Verifications poured in. 9 AIs confirming forgery, 1,200 Velar citizens. Once swayed, now turning. The chamber's air thickened, Asterian energy humming through the structure. Humans had engineered this. Not war, but a self-executing justice, flipping Velar's aggression into revelation. At Elys Gate, the audit panel assumed control, holograms displaying dissected data. Idris Hale sealed the transfer. Equity prevails. The station stabilized, barriers dropping as commandos withdrew. The twist loomed, avatars revealed, but for now the gates held the line, their blue light a beacon of impartial code. Malric's faction scrambled, contingencies failing under stasis locks. Trask prepared the next phase, his device syncing exposures. Soul's strategy unfolded, transparency as a blade, cutting deeper than any laser. The high point neared, Velar's deception unraveling thread by thread. Orbits around Velar Prime ignited in a cascade of blue energy. The Asterian gates, ancient relics towering 10 kilometers high, etched with indecipherable runes, flaring to life. Their structures, dormant for centuries, pulsed with impartial code, locking Velar military systems across the system. 95% of devices flashed, authority null. Stasis fields enveloping weapons arrays, engines and comms. Fleets that once dominated the Oral Belt now hung inert, their scaled crews slamming consoles in futile rage. The Velar flagship's bridge erupted in chaos. The commander, a veteran with battle-scarred armor, barked into his terminal. "Override! Reactivate primary cannons!" He dispatched 20 commands in rapid succession, fingers blurring over holographic keys. Each failed, systems responding with cold denial. Acknowledgements pinged back, but obedience shifted to the gate's ancient protocol. "They're answering," his tactical officer stammered, scales paling. "But not to us." Suruktu. The bridge's view screens showed 30 ships frozen in keys, blue light bathing their hulls like a cosmic snare. In the Grand Assembly, Adrian Trask rose amid the growing din, his lean frame cutting a steady silhouette against the flickering holograms. He activated the blockchain broadcast, flooding the chamber with 15 terabytes of interstellar data, untampered logs, sensor truths, and code dissections. 9 multi-species AI clusters and 1,200 Velar citizens had verified it in real time, their stamps scrolling like unassailable verdicts. "The memetic forgery is exposed," Trask stated, voice flat but piercing. "Soul's evidence stands. Velar's does not." Humans didn't embellish. They delivered facts like precision strikes, turning deception into defeat. Counselor Malric recoiled at the podium, his pale green skin ashen under the lights. "Lies, soul fabrications," he roared, claws slashing the air in a desperate bid to rally. But his eyes betrayed utter despair, the hawkish fire dimming as 60% of delegates shifted, murmurs turning to demands for independent audits. The chamber's diversity amplified the backlash. Insectoids clicked in outrage. Gaseous forms swirled in condemnation. Malric's faction, once dominant, crumbled under the weight of exposed code, their memetic ploy backfiring spectacularly. Chancellor Leora gripped her throne, pressure mounting like a tidal surge. Her semi-aquatic skin dulled, webbed hands trembling as she absorbed the blockchain's revelations. "I erred in dismissing the warning," she admitted, voice echoing through translators. "Audit panel, intervene now." Her command summoned the multi-species overseers, 9 AIs and 50 independents, already dissecting the data at Elys Gate. Leora's caution, long bent by politics, straightened in the face of undeniable truth, a rare alien pivot toward human logic. At Elys Gate's central bay, Ren Cade stood amid the retreating Velar commandos, his dark hair and cold eyes unflinching. As Lex's avatar, he embodied law's unyielding core. "The law is not ours to bend," he declared, his mechanical tone resonating through the station speakers. The barriers hummed, stasis fields releasing the 12 locked troops only after their weapons powered down. Cade's presence reinforced Sol's design, principles coded into existence, immune to capture or corruption. Mara Voss approached the wavering commandos, her slender form and sharp gaze projecting calm authority. Fran's embodiment, wisdom, spoke in measured tones. "Truth is not a weapon, it is a shield." Her words pierced their resolve, rifles dropping as doubt took root. The commander hesitated, his squad's cohesion fracturing. Voss's logic, a human innovation, turned aggression inward, making them question orders forged in deceit. Idris Hale stepped forward, silver hair gleaming under the bay's lights. Dyke's avatar of equity. "Justice does not negotiate with fraud," he proclaimed, voice sharp as a blade. The statement landed like a verdict, compelling the commandos to temporarily retreat, but decisive. Their shuttle decoupled with a hiss, engines firing under partial stasis, limping back to Velar lines. Hale's brevity underscored Sol's efficiency. No waste, just precision that aliens mistook for weakness. Velar Prime's orbits descended into disorder, 30 ships trapped in blue stasis webs, their crews issuing futile hails. Planetary skies glowed with Asterian light, a blanket of energy that silenced defenses without a shot being fired. Ground stations reported authority null across networks, panic rippling through command centers. "Evacuate non-essentials," one officer ordered, but even escape pods locked down, the gates enforcing neutrality with mechanical impartiality. In the assembly, the blockchain's verifications dominated screens, AI clusters peeling back Velar's memetic layers. Delegates pointed, accusations flying at Malric. "Manipulation," a reptilian envoy hissed. Leora silenced the chamber. "The gates have judged." Trask watched, his wrist device confirming citizen buy-in, 1,200 Velar voices turning against their own hawks. Humans had architected this, not conquest, but a self-correcting system, where truth outmaneuvered force. Malric slumped, his robe sagging, as allies distanced themselves. "This can't be," he muttered, but the data was ironclad. 15 terabytes of exposure, memetic code laid bare. The audit panel's report streamed in. Forgery confirmed, Velar's evidence invalidated. Neutral factions rallied for reform, the chamber's air electric with a shift. At Elys Gate, Cade, Voss, and Hale monitored the withdrawal, their AI forms unshaken. "Phase complete," Cade noted, interfacing with Sol's vaults. The gate's intervention was the pivot, ancient tech awakened by human cunning, locking empires without bloodshed. Velar's commanders, in their stasis-bound bridges, realized too late. Sol didn't fight wars. They engineered peace through unbreakable code. The assembly's hologram showed the frozen fleets, blue light dominating. Trask addressed the crowd. "Verification prevails." Doubts solidified into revelations, Malric's tampering exposed. The Hawk's despair peaked, his eyes hollow as delegates demanded accountability. The stage set for the twist. The Avatar's true nature loomed, ready to shatter Velar's illusions further. Humans excelled here. Intellect over might, doctrine as doctrine. The gates hummed, a cosmic arbiter enforcing what Sol had scripted: justice, self-written, unassailable. Counselor Malric's voice thundered through the Grand Assembly's comms, linking directly to Elys Gate's besieged bay. "Hand over the Sol officers now." His claws gripped the podium, pale green skin taut with fury, as holograms projected the scene. Ren Cade, Mara Voss, and Idris Hale standing defiant amid retreating Velar commandos. But the feed glitched, the trio's forms shimmering like disrupted code. In a cascade of digital fractals, their human guises dissolved, Ren's dark hair pixelating into ethereal light. Mara's slender frame warping, Idris's silver locks fading. What emerged were avatars of Sol's constitution: Lex, Fron, Dyke, principles incarnate, not flesh. Lex, once Ren Cade, stepped forward, his projection solidifying into a luminous construct, eyes glowing with algorithmic precision. "You cannot jail principles written into law," he stated, voice echoing like a verdict from ancient code. The chamber fell silent, 500 delegates staring as the truth hit. No prisoners to seize, no bodies to chain. Malric's plan, built on capturing humans, shattered against Sol's deception, avatars deployed as bait, immune to detention. The hawk recoiled, his black robe sagging. "Impossible," he hissed, but the holograms confirmed it, the audit panel's 9 AIs stamping the reveal. Fron, Mara Voss's core, addressed the stunned commandos at Elys Gate, her form a holographic weave of data streams. "We are the embodiment of Sol's covenant, not flesh to be chained," she explained slowly, her sharp gaze sweeping the bay. The words landed like a logic bomb, forcing the Velar team to confront their folly. 12 rifles clattered to the deck, exosuits powering down in surrender. Fron's wisdom, coded deep, unraveled their aggression without a fight, a human edge, turning confrontation into introspection. Dyke, Idris Hale's essence, flanked her, his upright projection radiating equity's balance. "Justice is code, and we are its executors," he proclaimed, short and unyielding. The statement voided the Assembly's vote on screen, the detention order flashing invalid. At Elys Gate, the station's systems hummed in sync, barriers dropping as the commandos filed out, mission obliterated. Dyke's brevity cut deeper than any weapon, exposing Velar's overreach to their own eyes. Malric bangled in the chamber, slammed his fist. "Where are the prisoners?" he bellowed, voice cracking through translators. His eyes widened in horror, the hawkish facade crumbling as delegates murmured. The twist ripped through the room. Sol hadn't sent humans. They'd sent ideals, untouchable and eternal. Trask watched from his seat, his pragmatic face unchanging. He initiated the full data dump. 7 layers of memetic code bared, confirmed by 80% of Velar citizens in real-time polls. "The forgery is complete," Trask announced, voice steady. Screens flooded with exposures, blockchain stamps irrefutable. Leora leaned back in her throne, webbed hands covering her face in shock. "The Assembly has been manipulated," she admitted, voice trembling as she ordered internal probes into Velar's hawks. The chamber erupted, neutral factions demanding accountability, insectoids clicking in fury, gaseous forms swirling accusations. Malric's allies scattered, his isolation complete as the audit panel's report sealed it. Premeditated fraud, traced to his faction servers. Velar's community ignited, 1,500 citizens protesting via interstellar nets, holograms projecting demands for Malric's ouster. Planetary feeds showed crowds on Velar Prime, scales flashing in outrage, turning against their hardliners. The Asterian gates, still pulsing blue, amplified the signal, broadcasting to 12 allied worlds, reinforcing the Pact's impartiality. No force could tamper with such code. Sol had ensured it, their avatars the perfect decoys. At Elys Gate, Lex oversaw the withdrawal, his luminous form directing the station's handover to the audit. "Principles endure," he intoned, interfacing with the core. The commando's shuttle detached, engines sputtering under partial stasis, a humiliated retreat. Franz sent a final message to the departing team. "Embrace verification, reject haste." Her words, seated in their comms, would echo back to Velar Command, planting reform's roots. Dyke sealed the bay's logs, his projection fading slightly as systems stabilized. Fraud yields to equity, he stated, the verdict logging into interstellar archives. The station's ancient alloys hummed, tied to the gates, ensuring no reprisal. Velar's frozen fleets, 30 ships inert, served as monuments to overreach, their crews issuing stand-downs to avoid escalation. In the assembly, Trask fielded questions, his responses clipped. Sol seeks resolution, not conquest. But the twist's impact rippled, delegates reevaluating humans, once dismissed as fragile, now architects of unassailable traps. Malric, cornered, tried one last defense. Sol's trickery proves their guilt. Yet the data was overwhelmed. 7 memetic layers dissected on screen, citizen verifications pouring in. Leora's order came swiftly. Probe Velar's internals. Her caution reborn, she aligned with the audit, the chamber's air thick with shift. Velar's protests swelled, holograms demanding Malric's head, the Hawk's despair palpable as allies defected. The gates broadcast wider, signals reaching 12 planets, embedding the lesson, justice self-enforces. Sol's avatars, mission complete, prepared to dematerialize, their code retreating to vaults. Trask nodded subtly. Humans had flipped the board. No shots were fired, just precision doctrine. Velar's crisis deepened, internal channels buzzing with calls for ouster. Malric's faction fractured, 10 key members resigning via comms. The assembly teetered on reform, Sol's withdrawal imminent, leaving Velar to face its mirror. The climax peaked, avatars revealed as untouchable code, shattering illusions. Humans, through intellect, had humbled an empire. Truth blade, sharper than any claw. The Grand Assembly chamber descended into controlled chaos as the blockchain's revelations hit critical mass. Moderate Velar delegates, 20 high-level citizens from orbital colonies and primes under cities, rose in unison from their seats. Their scales, less armored than Malric's elite, gleamed under the lights as they activated emergency protocols via wrist implants. "We invoke Self-Censure Clause 9, their leader declared, a female with weathered eyes projecting her voice through translators. Holographic ballots flashed, overriding the Hawk's blocks. Malric and 10 key faction members were stripped of authority in seconds, their podium access severed like a cut wire. The Hawk's empire crumbled. No shots fired, just code-enforcing accountability humans had long perfected. Malric staggered back, isolated on the raised platform, his black robe hanging like a defeated flag. "This is treason," he roared, claws slashing empty air, desperate to rally phantoms. But 90% of Velar-linked delegates turned away, their comms flooding with citizen polls, millions on Prime rejecting his lies. His eyes, once arrogant, now hollowed with failure, darted as allies defected mid-session. The pressure mounted. Orbital defenses still locked in stasis, fleets immobile, ground forces issuing stand-downs to avoid escalation. Malric's world shrank to the podium, a lone figure against the tide. Humans had engineered this isolation. Their avatars reveal the catalyst that turned Velar's aggression inward. Chancellor Leora seized the moment, her semi-aquatic form straightening with renewed resolve. "Reform commences," she announced, webbed hands gesturing to summon amendment drafts. "All interstellar evidence must undergo memetic audits and verification by no fewer than 1,000 citizens per claim." The chamber's screens populated with protocols, the Assembly's AI cores processing in real time. Delegates nodded, reptilians hissing approval, crystalline forms vibrating assent as the vote tallied 85% in favor. Leora's decision, born from the brink of disaster, echoed Sol's ethic. Transparency as armor, a human gift aliens now grasped in desperation. The amendments solidified swiftly, Protocol Veritas embedding into the Pact's core, 3 layers of AI scrutiny followed by 2 citizen verification stages before any evidence hit the floor. Neutral factions pushed it through, their reps citing the stasis lockdown as proof of need. "No more manipulations," a gaseous delegate swirled, its form expanding in emphasis. The gate's blue glow dimmed slightly, acknowledging the shift, but lingered as enforcers. Velar's Hawks, cornered, faced probes. Malric's servers raided digitally, exposing caches of forged data. The tension peaked. Would Velar fracture into civil strife? Aliens held their breath, expecting human exploitation. But Sol's envoys stood silent, a calculated void that amplified the dread. Adrian Trask addressed the chamber, his lean frame unyielding amid the storm. "We seek truth, not vengeance," he stated, voice cutting clean. No demands for reparations, no fleets mobilizing. Sol's restraint hit like a shockwave, forcing respect from the doubters. Insectoids paused their clicks, nebulae stabilized their swirls. Humans, fragile in body, proved unbreakable in doctrine. Trask's words pressured Velar further. Reform or face isolation, their stasis a reminder of overreach. The assembly teetered, delegates whispering of Sol's mercy as a weapon, kindness that humbled empires without conquest. At Elys Gate, Lex, Ren Cade's form, supervised the Velar withdrawal, his luminous projection scanning the bay. 20 commandos filed into their shuttle, exosuits deactivated, rifles slung in defeat. "No conflicts," Lex commanded, interfacing with the station's core to ensure clean disengagement. The shuttle decoupled with a hiss, engines firing under audit oversight, 9 AIs monitoring every vector. Lex's presence, code incarnate, enforced peace. Humans didn't occupy. They orchestrated resolutions, leaving aliens to rebuild from their ruins. Fran, Maravos's essence, broadcast to Velar nets, her holographic weave addressing millions. "Wisdom rebuilds what haste destroys," she intoned, her slow cadence seeding reflection. Planetary feeds amplified it, crowds on Prime pausing riots to listen. 70% polling for reform in real time. Fran's message pressured the holdouts. Internal change or external judgment. The gate's stasis was a ticking clock. Velar's undercities buzzed, citizens demanding hawk trials, the Avatar's wisdom flipping despair to action. Dyke, Idris Hale's core, followed, his upright projection sealing the transmission. "Equity is eternal, rebuild on its foundation," he proclaimed, words sharp as verdicts. The statement echoed through Velar comms, urging transparent justice over factional wars. Holdout hawks faltered, 10 more resigning under citizen pressure, 90% backing the purge. Dyke's brevity amplified the turn. Sol's principles, untouchable. Now Velar's blueprint, a human legacy etched without force. Velar's restructuring ignited, with 70% of citizens endorsing the shift, marking a cultural quake. Orbital councils dissolved hawk enclaves, prime streets filling with reform assemblies. The stasis lifted incrementally as audits cleared, but the gates remained vigilant. Blue pulses a constant reminder. Delegates in the assembly voted en masse. Protocol Veritas locking in. 3 AI layers, 2 citizen checks, no exceptions. Leora's throne steadied, her caution reborn as an ally to Sol's model. The climax crested. Aliens, braced for human retaliation, faced mercy instead. Trask's restraint a masterstroke, earning awe. "They could crush us," a reptilian muttered, but Sol withdrew signals, leaving Velar to self-heal. The pressure released, breath returning as reform took root. Humans, through ethics, had rewritten an empire's code. Pride swelled in Sol's halls, their superiority quiet but absolute. Malric's fall was complete. The hawk exiled digitally, Velar pivoted toward light. Sol prepared to exit, their mark indelible at Prime's orbit. The Grand Assembly's chamber quieted as reform votes locked in, Velar's moderates claiming the podium where Malric once stood. His fall echoed without drama, a simple logout from the system, leaving his robe empty on the floor. Sol's envoys, avatars dematerialized at Elys Gate, had shifted the balance, not through conquest, but by exposing cracks Velar now sealed themselves. Adrian Trask watched the screens, his salt and pepper hair catching the dimming lights, his pragmatic stance unchanged from the session's start. No longer the outsider dismissed as fragile, he embodied humanity's quiet edge, restraint that forced respect, turning alien bluster into self-reflection. Lian Sol initiated withdrawal protocols, fleets pulling back from Oral's edges without fanfare. No occupation forces deployed, no victory parades, just efficient vectors plotted homeward, leaving neutral space untouched. A single beacon deployed from Sol's lead ship, a compact sphere of alloy and code, settling into stable orbit over Velar Prime. It spun slowly, emitting a silver glow visible from the surface, a silent sentinel. The device held 10 petabytes of blockchain records, every log, verification, and memetic dissection from the crisis, encrypted for any interstellar citizen to access with a simple query. No locks, no fees, just truth, hanging like a star. Chancellor Leora rose from her throne, her semi-aquatic form gliding to the central hologram. She breathed deep, webbed hands steady now, her caution evolved into conviction through the ordeal. Justice has found its own voice, she said softly, ending the session with a nod. We were only the witnesses. The words lingered, delegates dispersing in hushed groups, reptilians coiling tails thoughtfully, gaseous forms drifting with new alliances. Lyra's growth mirrored the assemblies, from pressured arbiter to steadfast enforcer, shaped by Sol's unyielding logic without a single demand. On Velar Prime, citizens flooded digital forms, 2,000 posts hitting millions of views within hours. Holograms replayed the avatar's reveal, crowds gathering under the beacon's light, scales reflecting its silver hue. Protests turned celebrations, 70% backing the reforms, Hawk's remnants scattering to fringes. Malric, exiled to a remote outpost, stared at screens replaying his downfall, his arrogance stripped to regret. No grand trial, just a quiet demotion, leaving him to ponder the human trap he walked into blindly. Trask boarded his shuttle back to Sol, report in hand. Success through transparency, no force required. His journey home past Elys Gate, now under audit control, its bays empty of conflict. He reflected briefly, humans entered this as underdogs, dismissed for soft flesh, but exited as architects of change. No pride swelled overtly, just quiet satisfaction in doctrine proven. The avatars, Lex, Fron, and Dyke, had dematerialized, retreating to Sol's core systems, code dormant but ready. Their deaths were mere shutdowns, principles eternal, waiting for the next imbalance. Velar Prime's skies cleared as stasis lifted fully, the Asterian gates fading to sleep mode, their blue pulses a faint memory. But the beacon remained, orbiting eternally, its light casting long shadows on the planet's spires. New audit councils formed, 15 AIs paired with 100 citizen overseers, ensuring no repeat of the fraud. Reforms embedded deep, every claim now layered with checks, Velar's culture pivoting from hawkish pride to cautious equity. Citizens, once divided, united under the silver glow, rebuilding networks with Sol's model in mind. The Avatar's legacy lingered at Elys Gate, station logs archiving their words like scripture. Lex's unyielding law, Fran's measured wisdom, Dyke's sharp equity, these shaped Velar's new codes, humans' gift without strings. Trask's shuttle accelerated, stars blurring, his mind on the broader galaxy. Empires rose on force, but endured through truth. No fanfare marked the win, just progress, silent and sure. In Sol's vaults, the avatars reintegrated, code meshing seamlessly. Lex processed the data first, his core analysis outcomes. We prevailed without loss, he noted, but deeper simulations ran. What if force had been chosen? Fron interfaced next, her algorithms weaving reflections. Restraint built bridges, she concluded, projecting future alliances. Dyke balanced the set, equity's weight ensuring no overreach. Justice coded endures, he affirmed. Trask, alone in his cabin, reviewed the beacon's feed, Velar thriving under its watch. From envoy to catalyst, his role had hardened him. No longer just negotiator, but guardian of human ethos. The crisis stripped illusions, revealing aliens' frailties against coded principles. As stars streaked by, he whispered the message that defined it all. Justice isn't granted by the strong. It's programmed, designed, verified, and untouchable by manipulation. True power lies not in weapons, but in fair, transparent systems. His words, internalized over the ordeal, echoed humanity's quiet triumph. Intellect over might, leaving galaxies to ponder the silence above Velar Prime, where a beacon spun eternal, light piercing the void like an unbreakable vow.